Hallelujah. Thank you for this. I feel like it's all like scripted and formality. Give honor to God. Thank Him, Lord Jesus Christ, for blessing me to be here to teach today. Yes. Give honor to the House, Spirit and Truth Kingdom Ministries. Yes. Our shepherd, Apostle Christopher Allen, and our pastor, Prophetess Carissa Allen. Two beautiful, loving people. I thank God for them. I always get in these modes where I ask the Lord some questions about the culture and different things I'm just curious about. But I had asked the Lord, well, what did they do during their downtime? Did they kick it? What was they doing? Because, you got the feast. They would come together, celebrate the feast. They would break bread. That's pretty much about the feast. Unless somebody was having a child, they would come bless the child, or a marriage, those types of things. I said, but what did they do? Was they kicking it? What was going on in the Hebrew culture, in the dusty roads of Samaria? So I kept seeing sheep. And I said, well, what's going on with this? Let's check this out. And I've been studying sheep and how the characteristics of sheep, and they're such a gentle creature. You can handle them. They don't, fight back, except for that one video I seen. Either that was a false prophet or that was rebellion in the body. But they're very gentle. They're actually one of the first animals to be domesticated. And they have different facial expressions. And they actually, when they look on people, they prefer a smile. And they also have rectangular pupils like goats do. And they're raised for their fleece, which is the wool, and for meat and dairy. You have, oftentimes you'll hear different phrases. You'll hear an ewe, or you'll hear a ram, or you'll hear a lamb, or you'll hear a sheep. And you're like, what are these different? It's all the same thing. So a ewe is an adult female. A ram is an intact male. A wether is a castrated male. And a lamb is a young sheep. Over the years, the greediness of man always puts his hands in something and try to be extra and want more. The flesh of man is never satisfied. Sheep, they grow their wool to prepare for the winter. It keeps them warm. However, what man has done, they actually have modified sheep. I thought that was interesting. So the contribution of a modified sheep, it says it helps produces pharmaceuticals in milk. It improves animal disease resistance. It increases wool production and provides a host for human organs. So they use the little sheep for human organs to be grown in. Imagine that. So the one thing I noticed was when they were domesticated, sheep, the process of growing wool, they would only need to be shorn once a year. And if they weren't shorn, they would shed. So it did one of two things. You either had the sheep sheared, or it was shed. And they would shear the sheep before it sheds because they want the wool. But what man has done, they have messed with the genotype. So they manipulated the wool, or the gene that makes the sheep produce wool, so it overproduces. Now, they don't think it's an overage, but it produces more, so where you have to shear the sheep twice a year. Exactly, because they want more wool. So now you find that sheep can, sometimes, even the Bible tells us sheep go astray. So if they go astray, who gonna shear them? So they walking around and their coats is growing. Now, I've been watching videos for like the past month of sheep getting sheared. And I found this sheep. He had a 78-pound fleece. 78 pounds of wool because he had been lost and the wool grew and he wasn't being shorn. They found him in the woods in Australia. And, those people went and saved him, brought him back, and they cut the fleece off. But it was nothing that could be used because it was so damaged. It had sticks, like big sticks and twigs and stuff in it. But the dangers of this, when you leave a sheep unshorn, the worst thing is it can suffer from a heat stroke. It can become too hot. It could get lice. It could get mites. It could get sores with pus pockets under the fleece. Even maggots. So these are things that are actually, the fleece is designed as a protective unit for the sheep. It protects and it keeps them warm in the wintertime, but through manipulation, and I'm just going to call it witchcraft, they done altered the whole genotype, and now more sheep, the abundance of sheep, they're producing more wool. So if you are a productive and you are a responsible sheep handler, you have your sheep sheared when they're supposed to. So I was thinking about this, and there's actually a festival in Hebrew culture. It's not part of the holy days, but it is a festival, and this is something that is very important to the culture of Hebrews. And the festival is called Hag Hagaz. Hag Hagaz. And this is the sheep shearing festival. So this is where you would put on your good clothes, your good sandals, and you would go to the shearing house. There was a specific place, it was called a shearing house, that you would take the sheep to be sheared. Not everybody sheared sheep. There were a lot of shepherds, but everybody didn't just shear their sheep at home. The purpose of it was a gathering. You took your sheep to be sheared to the next town. So during this time, this was a very prosperous time. Festivities, there was a lot of charity. People would come from far, from near. Hospitality was at its best. You could go to anybody's house and eat. This was just a time of celebrate. They was kicking it. So, and it was also a time of elevation. If you think about what a sheep had to offer, the wool, they used the wool for blankets, for clothing. They could sell the fleece to other people, or they would keep it. And the more sheep that you had, the more lucrative you were, because this was one of the things that you did herding sheep. You were sheep herders as a Hebrew. That's the occupation, And it's funny because other cultures, especially the Egyptians, looked down upon that. If you raised animals or you were a sheep herder, they felt it was an abomination. So you were low. you weren't on their level if you were a sheep herder. So I'm thinking like, well, this seemed like a really good time, a social event, gathering people from different areas. And when you would go to the shearing house, you could not take the firstling. And why couldn't you take the firstling? Why couldn't you shear the firstling?
It belongs to the Lord.
It belongs to the Lord. That was the first of the flock. So that's the offering up to God. So the firstling did not get shorn. Then I found it, as they sheared the sheep, you sheared in such a way that when the fleece comes off, it's intact. It's one piece, which is very interesting because the garments of Christ didn't have seams in it. It was just one piece. One piece. So when you shear a sheep, it has to be somebody who is skilled in this, where they would take it off. If the wool would be intact, they didn't want pieces. You wanted one full fleece. And they used these scissors now, I would say back then it would have been a sharp knife. It would have been a sharp knife, a cutting tool, if I can call it a knife, that they would use to cut the wool off of the sheep. Then it progressed to big scissors. Now they have actual clippers. And it's amazing how when I was watching these videos, they just pull the sheep over, they turning them over. Like, these sheep are not small, but they just doing this. Just so submissive. Don't put up a fight. They just lay there and they actually come to the person. So it shows a lot about the character of a sheep. Very gentle, very gentle. And it's just as that scripture says, Isaiah 53:7, he was oppressed and he was afflicted, yet he opened not his mouth. He is brought as a lamb to the slaughter, and as a sheep before her shears is dumb, so he openeth not his mouth. So it's literally when they bring these sheep in, or they're herding them all together, they don't run away. They just follow the lead. And they lay there, let them flip them over, let them shear, cut the wool, and that's it. So I began to take a closer, look at this, and I wanted to see every time this instance occurred in the Word. So first I'm going to read this to you. The Hebrew word for shear is gazaz. It means to shear, to mow, to be cut off, be destroyed. Figuratively, destroy an enemy, cut off, pull, shave. Primary power of cutting, to be shorn, used of enemies. The root word of it is goose, to pass over, pass away. To bring, cut off, figuratively, sense of passing rapidly. To pass through, over, or away. To bring over. Now that's interesting. I said, two things that stands out to me. Destroyer of enemies and the passing over. So, with those two things, what time of year did this occur? What time of year? If it's dealing with a Passover and a destroyer.
Is it spring?
Spring, yes. So this always occurs. This is the beginning of the year. In Exodus 12:1. It says, and the Lord spake unto Moses and Aaron in the land of Egypt, saying, This month shall be unto you the beginning of months. It shall be the first month of the year to you. So shearing the sheep was done in the first month of the year. This was done after the Passover. So this is, I don't know what God is planning, but I'm very excited about this new year. I'm very excited about this new year. And this time of year, like I said, is very lucrative and it's prosperous. And we're looking at it as a spiritual thing. This is lucracy. I don't know if that's a word. I just made that up. But it's lucrative. It's a lucrative time, and it's an abundance.
Yes.
Abundance. Everybody wants to participate in the shearing of sheep. Everybody wants to get a portion, even if they have to manipulate and scheme. Think about this. There are going to be individuals that will receive blessings, increase, elevation during this time, but then there are also going to be those who really don't have an inheritance or a blessing, but they're going to try to manipulate those who do to get theirs. And I'm going to prove this in a word. So, let's go to Genesis 31. And this is the story of Laban and Jacob. And we know Laban, he was not a good person. He wasn't very nice to Jacob. So, let's see. I'm going to read Genesis 31:14 through 19. And Rachel and Leah answered and said unto him, Is there yet any portion or inheritance for us in our father's house? Are we not counted of him strangers? For he hath sold us and hath quite devoured also our money. For all the riches which God hath taken from our father, that is ours, and our children's. Now then, whatsoever God has said unto thee, do. Then Jacob rose up and set his sons and his wives upon camels, and he carried away all his cattle, all his goods, which he had gotten, the cattle of his getting, which he had gotten in Padam Aram, for to go to Isaac his father in the land of Canaan. And Laban went to shear his sheep, and Rachel had stolen the images that were her father's. So here we have Jacob. He's leaving. And let me read 13 to you. It says, Genesis 31:13, I am the God of Bethel, where thou hast anointed the pillar. And he's talking about where you see the angels ascending and descending. And where thou vowest a vow unto me, now arise, get thee out from this land, and return unto the land of thy kindred. So the voice of God comes to Jacob, is telling him, get out of that land and go back to your father. Laban has deceived Jacob. He tricked him. He changed his wages 10 times. And see what was happening because of the blessing over Jacob. Wherever the people of God go, there's a blessing. And whoever you are around, they benefit from your presence. Just because you are there. Because you bring the Spirit of God. You bring the presence of God to a place. Laban knew that Jacob served Elohim. It was not a mystery. He knew that he was blessed because of the God he served. We know he didn't serve Elohim because it says that his daughter stole his gods. So there was a reason that Laban was trying to delay Jacob from leaving, because he was prospering. He was prospering.
Because Jacob was there, he was prospering. His sheep multiplied. His goats multiplied. His cattle multiplied. There was increase. Jacob literally came to Laban's home with nothing. Nothing. But a desire for a wife. So God began to increase the place where he was. So every time he would try to talk about leaving, oh, wait, whoa. Let's think about this. Let's talk about this. So finally God had to step in. You need to leave. Leave. So now, and I was wondering, I'm like, well, how did he get up out of there with all his cattle, his wife? He had 50,000 kids. How did they sneak away from this man? They all live together. So I'm like, well, how did they? Laban and his brother, they were at the festival. He took his sheep to go be sheared. So at the shearing of the sheep, Laban was excited to go to, now this is not in your word, I'm paraphrasing because what the time of year it was. Think about this. He was with this man for 20 years. I bet you he couldn't wait to get to that festival. Because when your sheep multiply, when your cattle multiply, that's an increase. Now you can sell these fleeces. You can keep some for your family and you can sell them. Yes. So this is a very profitable lifestyle. This festival is an increase. So he didn't know that this was going to be his last time that he was going to go to this festival without, this was going to be his last time, because after this, Jacob wasn't going to be there no more. I don't know how many sheep he was going to take after that. So he was more than likely anticipating and going. So while he was away at the festival, Jacob got away. He took his cattle, he took his wives, he took his children, and he left, as the Lord told him to do. Yes. So, like I said, when we think about this time of year, remember in the book of Exodus, chapter 12, these are all parallel. Exodus chapter 12, Genesis 31, and I'll give you the other scriptures also. But remember what the Lord told them. He said, what's that? He said, and thus shall ye eat with your loins girded, your shoes on your feet, and your staff in your hand, and ye shall eat in haste. It is the Lord's Passover. So we see that there is a shift. There is a shift where God is telling you to move and do something, and you need to do it quickly. God told the children of Israel, eat this Passover, get it with your shoes on, and be ready to go. Jacob, get up out of this country. It's time to go. So it's all the same thing. It's being replayed. It's being replayed. So, also, I'm going to read Exodus 12. I read the first 1 and 2. I'm going to read 3 through 6. Speak ye unto all the congregation of Israel, saying, in the 10th day of this month, the 10th day of the first month is the preparatory stage before Passover. That's when you prepare. You're starting to prepare. They shall take to them every man a lamb according to the house of their fathers, a lamb for an house. And if the household be too little for the lamb, let him and his neighbor next unto his house take it according to the number of the souls. Every man according to his eating shall make your count for the lamb. Your lamb shall be without blemish, and male of the first year. Ye shall take it out from the sheep or from the goats, and ye shall keep it until the 14th day of the same month, and the whole assembly of the congregation of Israel shall kill it in the evening. So think about it. You take what is clean and you separate it. Laban was unclean. It was time for Jacob to separate from that whole situation. That was just a season. So now there's a new season coming. Let's go to 1 Samuel 25:2.
Amen.
First Samuel 25:2. And I'm going to read a little bit before. But always when you study the word, you need to know what's going on. When you read, you need to know where the setting is, where it takes place, where are you geographically, what's going on in that time. You need to study Hebrew culture, because then a lot of things will begin to make sense. Things will begin to come together. It's like a puzzle. If you know who, what, when, and where, that's a very important component of understanding the Word of God. But you have to study Hebrew culture, and you know why they did certain things in a certain way or certain manner. So 1 Samuel 25, let's see, start at 2. And there was a man in Maon whose possessions were in Carmel. And the man was very great, and he had 3,000 sheep and 1,000 goats, and he was shearing his sheep in Carmel. Now the name of the man was Nabal. And is it not coincidence that this Laban spelled backwards? And the name of his wife, Abigail. And she was a woman of good understanding and of a beautiful countenance. But the man was churlish and evil in his doings, and he was of the house of Caleb. And David heard in the wilderness that Nabal did shear his sheep. So that here we go with the festival again. Here we go with a stingy, wicked man wanting to come up around the festival time. So it says, and David sent out 10 young men, and David said unto the young men, get you up to Carmel and go to Nabal and greet him in my name. So I'm going to skip down to number 9. And when David's young men came, they spake to Nabal according to all those words in the name of David, and ceased. And Nabal answered David's servants and said, who is David? And who is the son of Jesse? There be many servants nowadays that break away every man from his master. Shall I then take my bread and my water and my flesh that I have killed for my shearers, and give it unto men whom I know not whence they be? Now remember the setting of this time of year. This is festivities. People are very generous. This is as they say during that holiday that other people celebrate. This is the most wonderful time of the year. This is what they look forward to. So the generosity, when people came, you were prepared to feed them. You were prepared to clothe them. You were prepared to give them a place to stay. The shearers didn't pay for nothing. So here you have another person, an unclean person, benefiting from the righteous ways. So he said, he had the nerve to say, who is David? And they should have came back. You ain't hear about the song? You ain't heard about that song? Saul killed 1,000, David killed 10,000. He heard that song. The Canaanites heard that song. So I know he heard that song. But he trying to play him. That's how selfish he was. This is the man of God. This man and his men have kept his land
from robbers, from strangers. They kept the cattle from dying. This is the time period where David was on the run from Saul. So he was in the wilderness with his men. They had families. And so he was looking for provision. This is the wisdom of David. We hungry. We need some help. Oh, boom. It's the festival. Go to the man's house in my name. David's name bear weight. He killed 10,000. So why would he not ask? It was the time of year. There are always formalities in culture. This was the time of year. If you needed something, you better go ask for it. Because this was when the people's hearts were open to give. So there was something to be received, and he withheld it from David. He sent the men back like, he's not getting any of my stuff. So David, he said he was going to kill all of them, every one of them that pisses against the wall. All the male in the house, he was coming to kill them. But his wife, Abigail, spared the lives of his servants and of her husband. But we look at the time, it's the festival. You have generosity, you have a good time, and think about this. This man, Nabal, he had 3,000. He didn't have 12. He had 3,000. So how much does it cost to transport 3,000 sheep? Not only the 3,000, but it says 1,000 goats too. They had to transport them from Maon to Carmel. He had money. He had money. And the crazy thing about this, it says, let me take you 1 second. He ended up having a feast. When his wife got back after humbling herself before David, he was there at the house and he was having a feast. 36. 1 Samuel 25:36. And Abigail came to Nabal, and behold, he held a feast in his house like the feast of a king. He was kicking it. He got his come up. He was benefiting from the shearing of the sheep. He had a feast like a king. And Nabal's heart was merry within him, for he was very drunken. Wherefore she told him nothing less or more until the morning light. They was partying and kicking it. The sheep was sheared. The goats was sheared. You can shear goats too, some of them. So it sounds like in this instance, Nabal made a come up. But he didn't want to share with the man of God. He didn't want to give the man of God a portion. And you have to remember, and don't you ever forget this, because the Spirit of God dwells in you. You carry the presence. You carry the Father. His Spirit is in you. You are a blessing to others. And when people don't want to give to you, they're not rejecting you. They're rejecting our Father. So he is rejecting God. This man done killed, I don't know how many people. He done fought wars for the Lord. He been mighty and valor. How you say that? Valor. He's been doing all these things, and he is denied. So we know what happened to him, though. Take you to one other place. 2 Samuel 13. No, before we go there, let's go to Genesis 38. No, I'm sorry. 2 Samuel.
We go 2 Samuel. 2 Samuel 13. Now here we have the house of David. He has been established as a king, and he's reaping a lot of things that he's sown. The discord in his family. I'm going to read. Let's see. Start at number 1, 13 and 1. And it came to pass after this that Absalom, the son of David, had a fair sister whose name was Tamar. And Amnon, the son of David, loved her. And Amnon was so vexed that he fell sick for his sister Tamar, for she was a virgin. And Amnon thought it hard for him to do anything to her. But Amnon had a friend whose name was Jonadab, the son of Shemoth, David's brother, and Jonadab was a very subtle man. He was sneaky like the enemy. And he said unto him, Why art thou, being the king's son, lean from day to day? Wilt thou not tell me? And Amnon said unto him, I love Tamar, my brother, Absalom's sister. And Jonadab said unto him, Lay thee down on thy bed, and make thyself sick. And when thy father cometh to see thee, say unto him, I pray thee, let my sister Tamar come and give me meat, and dress the meat in my sight, that I may see it and eat it at her hand. Now this rascal done told him how to trick the king, David, to get the daughter to come so he can lay with her. He ended up raping her. He raped her.
Wow.
Now, Absalom took his sister in, and he covered her. He kept her. He didn't say anything, but it was in his heart, the hatred for his brother, and he began to plot. So when we look over, let's see. The vengeance of Absalom. It says, this is 23, 2 Samuel 13, 23. And it came to pass after 2 full years that Absalom had sheep shearers in Baal Hazor, which is beside Ephraim. And Absalom invited all the king's sons. So here we go. They partying again. The sheep done got sheared. Everybody happy. They eating. They drinking. Everybody is on a come up. Why wouldn't you go to the party? Everybody is there. Absalom used this as a decoy to bring his brother in to kill him. And he was murdered at a dinner celebrating a festival. So, one other one. We're going to go to Genesis. Now we're going to go to Genesis 38. 12. Genesis 38. I need to get a new Bible. I don't wrote so much in this Bible, I can't even see the words. So, it says here, I'm writing it in Akila. So it says, I'm going to start at 11, Genesis 38, 11. Then Judah said unto Tamar, and Tamar is the daughter-in-law. Now, Judah had 4 children. He had 3 sons and 1 daughter. The daughter is never named. 2 of the oldest and the second to oldest died. The Lord killed them, actually. But then he had the 1 son. So Tamar married the oldest son. The oldest son died. They gave Tamar to the next to the oldest. Then he died. And then we're going to pick up here. Then said Judah to Tamar his daughter-in-law, remain a widow at thy father's house till Shelah my son be grown. For he said, lest peradventure he die also, as his brethren did. And Tamar went and dwelt in her father's house. And in the process of time, the daughter of Shua, Judah's wife, died. You get that? And in the process of time, the daughter of Shua is Judah's wife, the daughter dies. So he didn't have, this is the third kid that done died. Now remember, this is a Canaanite woman he married. Judah represents praise, so we can see how over the years, praise is always perverted. You know, you go back to the word, to the lineage. Why is he marrying a Canaanite woman? Why is he outside of his people? So, now this is the third child that died. 2 sons died, now the daughter died. So it says, and it was told to Tamar, saying, behold, thy father-in-law. Now this ain't nobody but a woman that told her this. They said, and behold, and it was told Tamar, saying, behold, thy father-in-law goeth up to Timnah to shear his sheep. And she put on her widow's garment. She put her widow's garment off from her and covered her with a veil and wrapped herself and sat in an open place, which is by the way to Timnath. For she saw that Shelah was grown and she was not given unto him to wife. So she seen after they told her, it's like, oh, his son is grown. They ain't give him to you. So think about it. She don't have no children. She been married twice, and now she's been promised to a third one. They done forgot about her. They told her to go to the father's house and wait. Somebody come back and tell her, like, he grown now, girl. They ain't give him to you. They're shearing sheep, and he went his dad. So she being sneaky. She took off her widow's garment, and she put on prostitute garments. And when you wear a garment of a prostitute back in that culture, you always covered your face. That's why I did not agree with mask. But you covered this was always covered. You always had your veil, your covering on your head, but your face was covered. So, because it was a shame. So, she done disguised herself and she went to town. So, now remember, Judah is there with his baby boy. They having a good time. And this is what the word says. It says, and in the process of time, the daughter of Shua, Judah's wife, died, and Judah was comforted and went up unto his sheep shearers in Timnath. So this is, once again, is proven this is a good time. They're kicking it. He went there to be comforted. So this is a very important thing for people. If you didn't feel like it's like the icebreaker when you was going to Kent State. I don't care if you was in school or not. Oh yeah, they're right. Daniel just sitting there, so I was like. But this is the place where everybody who was somebody that knows somebody, even if you weren't nobody, you was there. He went there, Judah went there to be comforted after the death of his daughter. So once again, we know this is a good time, that they was kicking it. So, when Judah saw her, he thought her to be a harlot. He thought her to be a harlot because she was dressed the way she was dressed. She had her face covered. All you could see was her eyes. Because she covered her face. And he turned unto her by the way and said, Go, I pray thee, let me come in unto thee. For he knew not that she was his daughter-in-law. And she said, What wilt thou give me that thou mayest come in unto me? So, to make a long story short, Judah goes to the party to be comforted, to kick it. And while he there, and his wife is at home, but he there with his son being sneaky, he meets this woman in town who
who has her face covered, and he knows she's a harlot because her face is covered. That's the identifier. So he comes to her. Well, how can I get with you? Can I get with you? Well, what you gonna give me? And he said, well, I don't have anything with me, but I can send something for you. And I'm paraphrasing. She said, well, just leave me the signet, a necklace he had. And it was something else. Signet and a bracelet. His signet, bracelets, and a staff. So, once again, this time of year is a beautiful time. It's a beautiful time. And it's the enemy tries to corrupt it. They're supposed to be there shearing sheep. So, all of those examples, and I think there's a couple more, maybe about 2 more, but those are big ones. Because and I read you those because it sets the tone of what this meant to. This was very important. This was a part of their culture that, everybody participated in, and they looked forward to it. They were happy to be a part of it, and they wanted to participate. It was a very charitable time. So now we're going to go to Joshua. And what I want you to focus on, what I want you to get an understanding is the time of the year, because we are approaching Passover. We are approaching the beginning of the year. And this is a very, like I said, it's a very lucrative time. It is a very dangerous time. Your loins have to be girded during this time. We stand to receive benefits of the kingdom during this time, and the enemy knows. He's waiting too. He's excited. He's excited for the windows of heaven to be open, because those who are foolish won't keep what God is releasing to them. They'll be tricked out of it. Laban tricked Jacob. Nabal refused David. Judah was deceived. So there's a lot going on, but we have to, like I said, we have to focus on what God is doing. In the book of Joshua 5:2-3, it says, and at that time the Lord said unto Joshua, make thee sharp knives and circumcise again the children of Israel the second time. And Joshua made him sharp knives and circumcised the children of Israel at the heel of the foreskins. So what does that have to do with this festival? Let me see, let's go to Joshua. So remember, when the children of Israel came out of bondage, the people who initially came were circumcised. They were circumcised. However, those people, over the course of 40 years, God destroyed them, allowed them to die because they could not go into the promised land because of the disobedience and the unbelief that they had. So, the new generation that was born of the circumcised generation, they had not been circumcised. So, let me read this to you. It says in Joshua 1, verse 11, pass through the host and command the people, saying, prepare you victuals, for within 3 days ye shall pass over this Jordan to go in to possess the land which the Lord your God giveth you to possess it. They're about to make a come up. They're about, so remember in the book of Exodus, they had to prepare. The 10th day of the first month was preparation for Passover. it says, prepare victual within 3 days. What's going to happen after this? It's going to be Passover. Where are they passing over? Jordan. Jordan, the word Jordan, it means, it's Yardane. It's descender. To go down, descend, decline, march down, sink down, to go or come down, to be sink, to be prostrated, to send down, take down, to be brought down, to be taken down, conventionally to a lower region, subdue, cast down, to go for a drink of water, those who go down to the grave. So they were preparing to cross over Jordan. So this is where this all lines up. Christ was the lamb. In the book of Exodus, they talk about the lamb. That was the foreshadow of Passover, of Christ dying on the cross, the preparation, and then the killing of the lamb. That's the story of Christ, Exodus 12. So now you have the people who are doing the same as Exodus 12 here in Joshua 1. They're preparing to cross over. They have to get clean. They have to bring the things that they need. So they're going to go down. Now remember, when Christ died, he went to hell for how many days? 3 days. So Jordan is, the river Jordan, it is an analogy of them going down. Christ went down. They had to go down in order to go up. Now in this process, before the Passover, now here's the shearing of the sheep. They had to be circumcised. So the sheep, the children of Israel, had to be circumcised. They had not yet been circumcised. Their wool had to be sheared. Because remember, the wool not only keeps them warm, but it keeps the things away, the climate, the harsh weather. It's a protective cover. But it's only temporal. So now it's a new thing. It's a new beginning. It's the beginning of the year. A newness. A new beginning. We're crossing over. We're going down to come up. They literally went down through the Jordan to come up. The possession of the land, when you talk about this, don't look at it as a natural or a physical thing. The possession of the land, it is Christ. Christ is the land that floweth with milk and honey. He's the land. That's what you earn. That's your reward. So, but you have to go down. You have to be sheared. There has to be a shedding, a cutting. And don't forget that a shearer is a destroyer. The Hebrew word for shearer, it is a destroyer. Now, who came to Egypt during Passover and killed the firstborn? Who came? God sent someone. Remember, who came and killed the firstborn?
The holy.
What you say? The destroyer, the angel. Whenever God, he doesn't come off his throne. He appoints. He delegates. He delegates. Never forget that. Everybody has a job in the kingdom. The destroyer, not only is the time of the year, not only is there a come up for the righteous, but whoever is unrighteous. Think about this. The children in Egypt, I don't even want to say the children, everything, the firstborn of every living thing died. The destroyer came. The destroyer protected those who were righteous. Think about this. A taskmaster was on the backs of the children of Israel. Guess who came and sheared them? The destroyer. Cut them off. So now they can go about their business. When you think about this, Nabal
He made a quick come up and then he died. He disrespected, he blasphemed. That's blasphemous. Who is David? God's anointed? That's blasphemy. He died. The destroyer killed him. So not only is this a lucrative time, a festive time, a happy time, not only is this a time where the righteous make a come up, yeah, the unrighteous can make a come up too. You got to be careful because they might try to take what God has given to you, but they better be careful. Because his word says, my word is the same yesterday, today, and forevermore. This story doesn't stop. This is what happens at the time of the year, every beginning of the year. There is a come up. And I'm not just talking about finances. This is a spiritual elevation. This is a possessing more of Christ. Having more of him, being closer to him, growing in him. Can you imagine how the Father feels if somebody tries to interject or cut off what he's given to you? Think about that. He cut off the firstborn in Egypt. He cut off Nabal. This still happens today. All of these events of time, it doesn't stop. It still continues. So when we have the celebration of the beginning of the year as the saints being righteous, even though we are in 2023, there is still a destroyer that is waiting for this time of year. Yes. We as the saints, we're excited because we're about to have a come up. It's about to be a party. Yes. We're about to possess more of Christ, more gifts, Amen. More prophecy, Amen. More knowledge, more understanding, more wisdom. Amen. The enemy wants those things. He wants our gifts. Yes. But the destroyer is there. He's there. Wow. The same yesterday, today, and forevermore. It doesn't change. Not only are we to be excited and rejoice during this time, but we have to really intercede for the wicked. Yes. Listen to me. We have to intercede for the wicked. Yes. This is a season of fulfillment, and this is a season of cutting down, cutting off, destroying. Remember, the word says a false weight is an abomination. So when you have a come up, somebody got to be cut off. Everybody can't come up. Some people are going to be cut down. So when we look at this, the word terminology, Joshua 3:17, it said, and the priests that bear the ark of the covenant of the Lord stood firm on dry ground in the midst of Jordan, and all the Israelites passed over on dry ground until all the people were passed clean over. It keeps using that verbiage, clean over. So before they pass, that's why you have to be clean during this time. It has to be a cutting away. There has to be a shearing. There had to be blood on the post. You had to be clean to pass over. That's why it's saying prepare. And I remember, it's crazy. Hallelujah. The Lord was giving me dreams and I kept packing. And I kept hearing prepare. And I didn't really understand. And I was like, well, I don't know what's about to happen. But, and as the beginning of the year begins to approach, I'm like, I'm getting excited. I don't know what's going to happen. But something is good going to happen. Something good. It's going to happen. This year, this Passover, this beginning of the year, Passover is always in the first month of the year, the new year. for Israel. We are Israel. It's Passover. It will be what they call March. This is going to be an amazing year. It's going to be an amazing year. But I'm pleading with you. Intercede for the wicked. Because we always talk about getting these blessings and being promoted, being elevated. But it's some people, they're going to be cut down. They might not make it. We have to pray. And we have to remember, during this time of festivities, during this time of elevation, of growth, share. For God so loved the world, he gave, give. He told his disciples when he went out, as I have freely given unto you, you give. Give your time. Give your wisdom. Give your knowledge. Give your understanding of this word. Give your more prayer time. Give. This is the time of the year when our hands, they are open wide. I need a lot of hands. Because he's pouring out. He's pouring out. And I've been hearing of, the blessings within the body. And see, think about this. This is how it started with the children of Israel before they left, before they passed over and actually got to the land. Things were put into their hands. Yeah, they gave it for the temple, but it was just a token of to remind them there's a promise. This is a small thing right here, but this is just going to hold you over until you get to the milk and the honey.
Yes.
So that's what he does. The Lord starts to leave little crumb trails for you. And then you get all of a sudden. I thank God for his word. I thank God for his word. Whatever you need is in his word. Everything is in his word. I used to say, no, that's not in the Bible. I don't say that anymore. I don't believe that. Because God has to open our eyes to see what's in here. What we need is in here. And I believe everything you can possibly take your mind and think of, it is in this word. It's just a matter of it being revealed to you.
Yes.
So during this time, as we approach, as we are on the dawn of the horizon of the new year, let's intercede. Let us be sheared. Let us take off as the weather begins to warm, as our spirit, as we become hot. As the fire of God, don't let it burn out, because then you'll want to keep your wool. You won't want to shed because you'll get cold. Let the fire burn in your bosom. Let it burn in the belly where the soul is for God. So there can be a shedding. There can be a discontinuation. We're getting rid of the old. We're coming into a newness. Every year, this is a season. So this is something new for us this year. We have never seen 2023. We may have an idea of what it looks like, but we really just don't know. So let's be excited and let's share. Hallelujah.
Amen.
Hallelujah. Any questions? Erlan, you looking very intently. Comments? Anything you guys want to add to it?
Good word. That's
Good word.
makes sense to me.
Yeah.
Pretty much same.
And this was when Shanana gave her testimony. I was this past Sabbath. You was here. Did you hear her testimony? As I was smiling, I was like, "That's she on point." Like that's what God was showing me. Shedding off things, getting rid of some things, the shearing of the sheep. So I thank God, but I was small. I was like, yeah, Lord. Yeah. Tanner, nothing to add?
It's really on point. What's going on? It's following up.
Amen. Hallelujah. We'll hand it over to Elder Derek.